everybody. Welcome to The Bottom Line with Bob and Kendall Ehrlich. We'd love to hear from you at ehrlichbottomline@gmail.com, or please follow us on Twitter at EarlBottomline, at Bob_Ehrlich, and at Kendall Ehrlich. This is the follow-up to our last show.
Before we get to hitting back part two,
I love our themes.
A couple, yes, we love us. We have a couple preliminary. We each have a couple preliminary observations to make. I want to make a big announcement. I didn't tell you this. Major announcement. I have today successfully negotiated Wawa and the mall without wearing my mask.
Oh, that is fabulous.
Huh?
And I was in a local coffee shop without one, and most everybody in there was, but the employees are still wearing them.
How did it feel, though? Normal. It felt normal. Yes, normal. And it's interesting. The employees, by the way, at Wawa were also masked, which I was getting my coffee, I almost got
into it with somebody?
No. I was tempted to ask
to see the
why.
manager?
Well, I knew it's not the employee's fault. It's the management, right? So the bottom line is, the show's called The Bottom Line. The bottom line is return to normal. Second observation, and I, as a politician, I think my wife knows this, and I hope people that liked me and voted for me and supported our campaigns know this. I try not to be too picky about the opposition. In other words, when the opposition made a mistake or mispronounced a word, I never ran commercials on it. Because we do that. Everybody's human. Even politicians are human. Humans make mistakes. Politicians mispronounce names. President Ford said Poland was not in the Soviet orbit. I mean, when you think about some of the mistakes that politicians have made, it just happens. They're human. They're fallible. So I'm not going to press on this, but I'm going to mention two events from last week, babe, that we're not going to press forward on, but speak to sort of a larger issue. And one, President Biden talked about in the context of new gun control reforms. The quote was, "Enough prayers, time for some action, enough prayers," which is kind of an interesting comment. And of course, Vice President Harris, Naval Academy over the weekend, Memorial Day, graduation address, enjoy the long weekend. She's really been torched for this one.
Rightfully so.
Well,
we'll get to my point in a bit.
Again, I'm not going to press this. We're not going to devote a show to it or more than a minute. But again, insightful as to the mindset. The vice president at the Naval Academy talking to future soldiers, talking to men and women whose job it will be to defeat, in many cases, kill the enemy, and the importance of American national security and what the Navy does, the new Navy, the problem of China, the emerging problem of China, which not really emerging, it's been there for a while, but that comment really spoke a lot about her context, her frame of reference, if you will. And again, with respect to the president as well on gun control.
I understand when you talk about people misspeaking, but is that phrase misspeaking or not recognizing your audience and purposefully saying something that is not supportive of the military, which we think their framework comes from? You know, she has been speaking for a long time. Yeah. Was the Attorney General in the state of California. She's now been a senator for quite some time. So one has to think, well, wait a minute. Is that a purposeful phrase that she's not really acknowledging what's happening on the weekend? And here she is at the Naval Academy?
Well, we'll never know,
Mistakes
but we do know.
Are one thing.
Yeah.
Hint to philosophy is another, or not so much of a hint.
It's a tough crowd for her. She's been not exactly a hawk or pro-military during her public career. Again, a tough crowd, a tough assignment for her to go down there. And in any event, insightful into the mindset, into the philosophical predisposition of this president and this vice president concerning, one, gun control, and two, the military and the Navy specifically.
Which brings us to Memorial Day.
Yes.
I just want to speak a little bit we're very fortunate. We live in Annapolis, no secret to many folks, and we're very fortunate to be part of this community is the United States Naval Academy, which is really very much a part of this community. And commissioning week, this past week, and every commissioning week, not all, with COVID, it was canceled, but we have the Blue Angels, which is just an amazing experience. We're very spoiled here. It really makes you feel not only great about America, but about exceptionalism generally. I mean, these guys are millimeters from each other, it looks like, from the ground.
They are.
And it's just crazy how good they are. And it just makes you feel so great that there are people out there that, if called upon, will protect us at such a high level of excellence. So in Annapolis, Maryland, we're very spoiled by that. Every year being able to see that kind of excellence on display during commencement week, which is a huge celebration here. All the locals look out for the traffic, but other than that, it's just a spectacular time here. So as often, I was walking at the Naval Academy on Memorial Day, which I often do, and I'm going to read my Facebook post because it really shows how I felt that day. Many of you know that I've been running, now walking, at the United States Naval Academy for years. Today, I got emotional walking by the graves on Hospital Point. Maybe it was an acknowledgement of the service and sacrifice, but I also have a sadness of the lack of respect and understanding what our real, factual history means. And I have a fear of losing that history and respect for the military and our first responders. Most Americans love our country and understand the brilliance of our Constitution. If you don't feel that basic principle, there are other places to live. Now more than ever, may God bless America. And, I've been walking there for a long time,
Yeah.
and on Memorial Day, and I just felt this emotion come over me, and it was very real and spontaneous. And I do think that it's part of where we are and our lack of respect. I just don't want people to stop coming every Memorial Day to the United States Naval Academy and taking their cap off at John McCain's gravesite, which a lot of people do and visit, or their loved one's gravesite. It's just so important. I remember when I was dating you, you said everyone should go to a Memorial Day celebration. You, as a delegate,
Part
would
of
go
my graduation speech.
to the Memorial Gardens up in Timonium.
Yeah.
And it is so impactful and so important to remember. And not enough young people are going. The crazy thought process of the far left and their attitudes, remembering history. Then, just to emphasize that, you can Google it, but I think it's important. What is history's definition? It's the branch of knowledge dealing with past events, a continuous systematic narrative of past events as relating to a particular people, country, period, usually written as a chronological account, or more plainly saying, the study of past events. And it is so important to have real history, factual history, not made up history, of warts and all. And I just can't emphasize it enough.
Well said. You got a tremendous response on your Facebook page,
did.
as did I, by the way, when I retweeted yours. So, well said, my dear.
Thanks.
So this week we want to get back to last week, which was hitting back. The response from the average folks out there who've been subjected to an awful lot over the past year, as we know. And we last week talked about how political parties and different groups and individuals are responding to this new woke culture. So we'll start this week with TV ratings. You saw some, I shared these with you the other day, babe. MSNBC down 49% during the Biden era. Now CNN down 67%. Now you could argue, and I would argue, that some of that is due to the fact that the great monster has left. The great evil devil has left. President
People don't
Trump.
have to monitor anymore.
So the lefties don't have many more, no more spitballs from the bleachers, no more fastballs at his head, and as a result, no more interest in very left-leaning TV networks. But Fox down 12% too, and that is lingering distrust of election night coverage. No doubt about it. Because Fox took a pretty big hit, and we felt the same way on election night. Secondly, NBA ratings continue to decline. We're big Phil Mickelson fans around here. We love Phil Mickelson. I've loved him forever. The gambler.
The big lefty.
We like gamblers. We're gamblers. We're Republicans in Maryland. We gamble. So watching the PGA was terrific. And you knew it would be, particularly later in the day on Sunday, huge ratings. And it was 13 million folks watching. Just beating the NBA by large margins. The NBA continues to be down significantly, and as a result of what they did over this past year. Go woke, go broke may be one of the lessons derived from what the NBA did and what professional sports are doing generally. We're going to get to another athlete in a second. So in any event, with regards to us, we are a jock family. We were both jocks. We have 2 jock children. We watch sports. We love sports. But
like many Americans.
And I used to watch, as you know, the NBA I was late night NBA watching the Warriors and all that.
Jordan days.
The Jordan days.
You and I both watched those.
Absolutely. Growing up with the Baltimore Bullets, and it was just a wonderful part of my childhood. But I've literally turned the NBA off over the past year, including the playoffs. We watch less NFL. We love football. We're a football family. We watch less. We love the Ravens. John Harbaugh's personal friend. Love those guys. Watch much less football. MLB, we're watching much less baseball as a result of their All-Star decision. So my life has not been diminished one iota.
A lot of people feel that same way.
Third, John Cena. Oh my Lord! Should we talk about Josh?
Yes. John Cena was on our youngest wall for the period of WWE, his WWE phase, which was strong. And fun.
We took him to the matches.
I had never really been exposed that much to all of the different characters, but I did, and I enjoyed it, and he certainly did. But I have to say, this one in particular is going to have, I think, a large impact on him.
Yeah.
I think that many people feel like, okay, if China has become much more important to you, maybe, just maybe, you should go there. And if the marketplace of China has become so important to all of these CEOs and sports teams and Hollywood, it would be great if you go over there and create your marketplace and see what it's like to live in that kind of country. I'll bet you'll be back pretty quickly. We went there many years ago as part of a congressional delegation. You went as part of a congressional delegation. I got to accompany you. And now it's been a long time, so I'm sure much has changed. But what hasn't changed is the communist country. And the other thing is, at first blush, Shanghai and Beijing look like New York and Washington, certainly. But as we know, rooms being bugged and Big Brother being very much alive and well there. And let me just say, please go to China. Develop your marketplaces. Go. And John Cena, you should really go.
If you can't
you
afford,
can speak Mandarin, good for you.
If you can't afford to go to China, you'll probably do what the rest of Middle America has done, which is tune out Hollywood. A lot of folks have stopped going to the movies.
Well, why would you go? I mean, you have a movie theater in your house through television and many more interesting shows coming about, more creativity. I just think that television is where it's going to be, and that a movie theater may become very extinct in our lifetime.
I hope not, because a date night at the movies is still. I think I'm
on,
romantic. I'm sorry. I'm a romantic. That's why.
Right.
That's why you fell in love with me.
That's it. There's a few chuckles in Maryland.
But John Cena is getting absolutely destroyed on social media. Keith Olbermann called it shameful. Keith Olbermann, not exactly a right winger. Ben Shapiro, pathetic, the whole 9 yards. Middle America is turning off from woke Hollywood. And woke Hollywood and woke sports, particularly the NBA, are more dependent than ever on China.
Well, like I said, please, it's time to go there.
So, number 4, in hitting back this week, Republicans in Congress. Senate Republicans killed, as we know, the January 6th commission, quote-unquote commission. No reason for it. Senator Scott of Florida, Rick Scott, has a hold on Department of Homeland Security nominees until the president visits the border.
Good for him.
Senator Imhoff stepping up regarding a newly woke military. Good for him. Also talking about the firing of Space Force Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeyer for writing a book regarding neo-Marxist influence in the military. And that was highly publicized last week. So we see Leader McCarthy turning down the U.S. Chamber's endorsement, doesn't want it. Doesn't want.
Finally,
if people
standing
knew
up to the chamber.
When I was a member of the House, I mean, the chamber endorsement was gold. It was the gold standard. Everybody wanted. A lot of us deserved it, given the fact that the chamber, that endorsement meant so much to yourself, your reelection, folks back home. Oh, this guy goes to Washington and actually votes for entrepreneurs and job creators and all the good stuff that he or she campaigned for, right? But today, given what the chamber's become, given the fact that they endorsed so many Democrats last cycle. By the way, Democrats now voting against them on major bills. Surprise, surprise. I know you're shocked by that. Again, so the fact that the likely next speaker, Kevin McCarthy of California, does not want the chamber's endorsement is big news. And Senator Tom Cotton, one of our favorites, one of our absolute favorites, called the chamber basically a service for woke corporations. And so here we go.
When did that change? When did that change? Like, what years did that change? After you were out of Congress?
Oh, yeah. It's been in recent times, clearly. And it was about the Trump era. It was really changed during the Trump era because, as we've discussed on the show and everybody knows, Trump ran on a platform of enough of China, enough of 1.4 billion people and new markets. Okay, got it. But I also know they're cheating on trade deals. I also know that they're stealing our intellectual property. I also know they're saber rattling in different hotspots around the world. So we're going to actually have a different stance toward China and no longer placate China. We're going to call them to account. And as a result, the chamber got very nervous, a lot of potential customers.
But there were also state chambers that certainly we battled the chamber here in Maryland when you were governor.
Well, we just asked them to stand up. We just support entrepreneurs, support business people.
But my point is, in the blue states, that has also been a problem. The chamber going along to get along.
Yes.
Instead of standing up because they want to continue with their own power.
Well, but again, in the case of the Trump era, it was, despite the fact most Republicans agree with most chamber positions most of the time, a lot of Republicans thought the president, a lot of Democrats, a lot of working class Democrats thought the president was making very good points. And they were shouting from the rooftops, good for you, President Trump. Stand up for these guys.
Right.
They're not friendlies. They're competitors. We don't want a shooting war, but they're competitors. Make no mistake. And so, again, Republicans in Congress standing up, good for them. Also, we saw in the news last week, and I believe Tucker Carlson had a piece on this, a new advocacy group on the right, quote-unquote, unsilenced majority. So a new group funded by a number of right-leaning, very wealthy people. You've been calling for this for a while.
I like that.
No, you should be happy. The purpose is to mobilize grassroots to push back against corporate wokeism, to out-cancel the cancel culture, and to call practitioners of cancel culture and wokeness to account. And they're running ads, and it's very interesting. By the way, there's another group, the American Conservative Union's new Center to Protect Voters and Their Voices, the American Conservative Union, with a similar group now. So you see these groups are now sprouting up from the right. It's something we've been talking about for the last 5-6 months. What's our reaction?
We need to
when are we going
combat
to hit
Soros.
back? Yeah, and exactly. So these are very wealthy people coming together. No, enough of this. This is not the America we want. It's not the new normal. Going back to our mask wearing.
I heard that term on the radio today, and I got a chuckle because it's not the new normal. We're not going to that. We're going back to normal.
We would ask everyone, whenever you hear new normal in any discourse, just to interrupt politely, reject it. No. It's not the new normal. There's a normal, and then there's wokeism, and we're going to go back to the normal as quickly as we can. So again, babe, more fronts in the philosophical battle to respond to the Biden era, right? But part of hitting back is remembering. And not just remembering, but analyzing, and not just analyzing, but also coming up with the concrete examples of how the press, how the media, how the establishments went about their business of dismantling the Trump era. Right? That's also hitting back. Being informed, being, as you've heard me give the speech, being dangerous.
Right.
Knowledge is
Having your
dangerous,
knowledge
right?
behind
Knowing
you.
the facts. The last thing that progressives want to be confronted with are facts. They deal in emotionalism. That's their island, right? We like to deal with facts.
Asking open-ended questions to progressives is often a lot of fun. Ask them why they think that, and then
Kind of
and
party
see them
game.
sort of backpedal. You know, if they're not throwing bombs into the room, they don't even know what they think.
Well, it's time that we shouted from the rooftops. And when you shout from the rooftops, keep this in mind. Keep the narratives that the media painted and the facts, particularly the facts as we know them today. 1, Trump, the Obama administration was spying on my campaign. The reaction, crazy, paranoid. Are you nuts? This guy's president of the United States. What happened? They were spying on his campaign.
Right. It was true.
We know it. Another
Even
example.
in the beginning of that one, I thought, well, they couldn't possibly have been spying on him.
I thought he
really
went
did
overboard,
think
too.
that. And I think a lot of rational people thought, oh, that couldn't possibly be the case. And when that became true, it was so alarming. And it gave me a little more insight into them saying, oh, he only trusts his family. Well, guess what? When he got to that town, that's all he could trust. And then after working in the federal government for a couple years, I'll tell you, the swamp was wide and deep.
No. Well, speaking of which, example 2. The Mueller investigation. Russia's a witch hunt. The narrative for 3 years. Donald Trump is, we've seen it literally on MSNBC, CNN, speculation about Trump being a Russian plant, a Russian spy. Just craziness, right?
I mean, you know, it could have been Christmas Day and they were talking about Russia. I mean,
Russia,
it was
Russia.
Russia. It was part of every other word was Russia on MSNBC.
$35 million later, a team of Democratic attack dogs could not find one iota of evidence, of course. And, of course, that narrative was quickly dumped in favor of the Ukraine narrative, but that's another issue. Third example, the Chinese Houston consulate was a major hub for Beijing's campaign to steal American intellectual property. The press went crazy. There, the xenophobia again. There's the saber rally against China. So unfair, so nativist. That's Trump. And guess what? Now it's come out. That particular consulate was a hub of that very same activity.
Well, and President Trump had been talking about China and intellectual property for decades. I mean, as citizen Trump, as businessman Trump.
That's right.
For years.
Protect our interests. Fourth example, the example of the week, by the way, the big story of the week. Virus likely escaped, more likely than not escaped from Wuhan laboratory. What was the reaction? Xenophobic, Trump trying to pick a fight with the Chinese, nativist Trump, blah, 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 blah. And what happened last week? What was the big news of the week? What's now mainstream?
Right.
Right.
It came from the Wuhan lab.
More likely than not, and now now the Biden
I
administration is going to investigate.
Really, it came from a bat?
Well, we don't know. But
No, but you don't know when you don't have a science background. But I remember thinking at the time, I was like, really?
Here's what you don't do, though. You don't, as a member of the press, dismiss one logical explanation, because the president of the United States that you hate was advocating it.
Also, even at the time, for those that were really looking into what was happening in China at the time, doctors mysteriously missing, people dead all of a sudden, lots of things going on at those labs that then all of a sudden had no access to, and the typical Chinese communist country took over and cleared everybody out.
And don't forget, the mainstream press wanted to buy the WHO investigation that even the WHO wasn't satisfied with. Again, 5, vax in a matter of months. Operation Warp Speed, we're going to do it. There's the salesman, there's the liar, there's that Trump out there again getting ahead of himself. He's not a scientist. He doesn't know anything. Not going to happen. Has not happened in the history of mankind. Guess what?
Well, guess what? If there had been a Democrat, this would be lingering. If there had been a Democrat in office at that time. And now Joe Biden, of course, is taking credit for it. But believe you me, we'd still all be wearing masks through 2022.
Absolutely. So again, you need to know what the press has become. You need to know how it operates in order to become dangerous. You need to be able to, in the course of an argument, of a debate, whether you're a candidate at work, wherever you happen to be, know these examples.
Well, there's a pattern of obviously repetition and talking points that are given to those press outlets, and that's all you hear all the time. And then, of course, you have rational questions about maybe the vaccine or maybe Biden or the vice president, and none of that is covered. None at all.
I just want to close with an editorial note on hitting back. A lot of my social media is devoted to education. Those of you who do not know me or us know we value education a great deal. You were able to go to terrific schools, as was I. You went to a terrific public high school. I was able to get a scholarship to a prep school because I was a good football player, good athlete.
But it was also because your parents knew that your opportunities came from the more education you received. Your parents had choices. They said, oh, no, you're going to that school.
Right.
And I had some of those same types of choices. But the point is, our parents had a real value, and they instilled that in us. And the American dream is still obtained through education, no matter what.
But, and a lot of our social media today on the right, including ours, is devoted to this issue. But we're talking about education, the ability to think critically, the ability to learn facts, create context, make your case, be a learned, thoughtful, educated person, polite but firm. So much today, particularly over the last year, we see education falling by the wayside in favor of wokeism, progressivism, all this stuff that's being shoved down the throats of a lot of public and private school kids. We're fighting back in different ways with regard to the high school that I went to in Baltimore. We are encouraging public school parents to really hit it hard concerning local school board elections. We talked last week about parents across the country. It's not easy. You potentially could put your job at risk. Potentially you could have your porch in the middle of the night vandalized. You could potentially hurt yourself in the community, your kids. It's not easy. We're not pretending it's easy. And we know for some people it may be impossible given their economic situation. But to the extent you can, be heard, stand up. This is the fight of our lifetime because the left has figured out years ago this is the way to get this anti-American critique into the minds of young people.
Indoctrination of those thoughts.
And by the way, if you think this isn't important, think of those upper middle class white college students in Portland and in other places, Antifa and all those groups, screaming racial slurs at African American policemen. Think about what led them in that direction. Think about what they learned, how they were indoctrinated, how they could literally end up at a point where privileged kids, truly privileged kids, are speaking such nonsense, such slurs, such horrific, making such horrific allegations
and
directed
being
toward
so disrespectful
and criminal, by the way,
Yes.
criminal in many cases. Where are their parents? Where were their teachers? What did they learn? How did they learn? What values did they learn? It wasn't Dr. King. It wasn't about dissent. It wasn't even about Berkeley in the 60s. That was free speech. It's about this new, very dangerous strain of progressivism in our schools. And as a concluding note here, again, when you think about hitting back what needs to be done in our culture today, think about standing up, thinking about writing a letter, thinking about showing up at a school board, thinking about putting a tweet out, think about helping somebody run for school board and knock off an incumbent who buys into this stuff. Get engaged, be active. This is our future. There's nothing more important today than education, the American way.
Thanks so much for listening to Bottom Line with Bob and Kendall Ehrlich. We'll talk to you next time.
Godspeed.